Hello book lovers, and welcome back or welcome to Nat Cat's Bookish Cafe. Today I will be choosing my first TBR for the year 2023. So it is the day after Christmas and the end of the year is fastly approaching, which means January is fastly approaching, and it is time for me to use my TBR to select what I will be reading. This month I will not only be using my TBR game, Lezerin Egedisnicht, but I will also be using the prompts for the Whodonnit readathon. This is hosted by Danielle at Booklovers, Paige from Pages with Paige, and Naomi from Naomi's Bookshelf. I will link each of their announcement videos. You can check one of those out, all of them out. Of course, go ahead and give all those wonderful YouTubers a follow. They also have the instructions or the Google documents that you will need for this readathon available there. So I will go ahead and do my usual 5 rolls. I don't need to take any punishments this time because I completed my November TBR, and I will, luckily, spoiler alert, be able to double up on all of my prompts with the readathon prompts. So I will go ahead and just let you know what prompts I will be using for that book when I discuss the book that I pulled for my TBR game. So before we get started with my TBR, if you are new here, my game is based off of, as I mentioned, Lezerin Egedisnicht, which is, or it's called Lezerin Egedisnicht, but it's based off Mensch Egedisnicht, which is similar to Sorry, or kind of a simpler version of Parcheesi. So you can go ahead and check out the playlist if you want to see my previous videos, as well as a video where I go through all the instructions. But I've made a couple small changes. The first is someone asked me why I always move the first person. That is if, you know, I can't take someone out of the house. And there wasn't really a reason for it, and it was causing me to sometimes kick another person home and have to take a punishment when I could avoid it. So I will go ahead and start moving whoever I want, as long as all the members of the house are out. So if I have everyone in the red house out, and moving the first person would kick someone out, I can go ahead and move whoever I want. But if there's someone in the house, I do still need to go ahead and take them out, even if that does kick another of the colors out. I hope that makes sense. I'm hoping to avoid punishments a little bit more, especially as we move along with the game. We're probably going to get more and more players on the board, and knocking each other out will become a little bit more of a regular occurrence. The second change is that I've gone ahead and added rewards. So I bought this cute little witchy cat bag where I have 6 different reward prompts in. I figured since I was doing punishment prompts, I should also give myself some reward prompts. I will be pulling one of these this time since I finished all my prompts in November. So I'll go ahead and go through those real quick. First off, we have an extra week. So this means that if by the end of the month I have not completed my TBR or gone at least through 50% of all the books on my TBR, I can give myself an extra week. And if I do achieve that goal by the end of that extra week, I do not need to take a punishment prompt. We also have ignore genre. So this is if I pull a prompt that works with another book of another genre, I can go ahead and just ignore whatever genre I pulled and choose a book that applies just to the prompts. We have a similar one to that, which is ignore prompt, and that is if I pulled a book or a genre that I really wanted to read, but the prompt won't allow me to read one of the books I'm really hoping to read, so I can go ahead and just ignore that prompt. Next, we have double up. So this will allow me to double up on prompts. And it doesn't have to be for the same genre. So if I pulled one for horror thriller, mystery and then one for romance. I can choose either to apply it to romance or to the horror thriller mystery. So I do need to use one of the genres to apply those 2 prompts to, but it doesn't have to be like a horror thriller mystery with a romance subplot or anything like that. So that'll allow me to possibly only have to read 4 books for my TBR. Next, we have exchange for a mood read. This just means that if I am looking at my TBR and there's one book on there that I selected, but it's just, not calling out to me, but it was kind of the only book that, fulfilled the specific requirements for the prompt, I can go ahead and just kick that out and replace it with whatever book I would like. And the last one is ignore the punishment prompts. So if I pull this one, I can ignore a punishment prompt that I had to take at the beginning because I didn't fulfill or I didn't complete my TBR, or I can use it after I kicked out a different color and need to take a punishment for that. So that just means that the punishment prompt just goes back into the pile and I don't have to take it at all. As far as those reward goes, I don't need to use them within the month that I pulled them. I can go ahead and save them up for as long as I need to. And a few of these don't apply to punishment prompts. The only one that applies really to the punishment prompt is the ignore punishment prompt one. So I can't say ignore prompt and ignore a punishment prompt, or I can't say exchange for a mood read and exchange the book that I selected for my punishment prompt for a mood read. So those are just a couple extra rules about that. But I think that is all that I have to say before we start this video. So we will go ahead and go right into me pulling my reward and roll number 1. All right, let's go ahead and start with our reward. I'm going to give it a little shake. Let's mix them up. Grab this one. All right, exchange for a mood read. So if I get a book that fulfills one of my prompts, but I'm not super excited about it, I can go ahead and just change that out. All right, and then we'll get into roll number 1 out of 5. Looks like we're starting with a historical. And we got a 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We can take our person out. So this historical book needs to be with a word association. So I'm going to go ahead and randomly generate a word, and then the book will have to in some way associate with that word. All right. So for our reward, we went ahead and got exchange for a mood read. So if I decide to use that this time, I will let you know. Otherwise, I will go ahead and save it. Now, the prompt for roll 1 was historical, and that is word association. And I will go ahead and hopefully have here where I go ahead and go to a random word generator. Now, I believe the word that came up was conflict. So the book I went ahead and selected was Hunting Prince Dracula by Carrie Maniscalco. This is the second book to Stalking Jack the Ripper. This does have a form of conflict in it where I believe she's once again hunting some sort of serial killer. And we are following a young woman who I believe in this book is now in a academic setting where she wants to be a forensic scientist, and we follow her and her love interest as they are hunting down people that are killing other people. In the first one, they were hunting down someone who was inspired by Jack the Ripper, and in this case, we are following someone who is inspired by Dracula. I really enjoyed the first one. I like kind of the slow burn of the romance. I thought that their banter was very entertaining. I thought the mystery aspect of it was well done. I mean, I did guess who the killer was in the first book, so we'll see if I'm able to do that in book 2. I'm very excited that we are now taking place in a academic setting. This does fulfill a few of the prompts for the Whodonnit readathon. For the Clue character, I don't know if I mentioned that the Whodonnit readathon was based off of Clue, but it is. And we need to fulfill a total of 9 prompts, 3 characters, 3 weapons, and 3 rooms. And we can triple up, but each book needs to be applied to a different category. So in this case, we, for the characters, are doing Miss Scarlet. One of the prompts associated with that is an adaptation. You can see this information in the Google Docs that the hosts have. And this is inspired by Dracula, so it's not like a direct adaptation of the book, but the villain of the story is kind of adapted from that. So that's why I went ahead and selected this book for that. For the weapon, this will fulfill the prompt of a revolver because it is part of a series. And for the room, it will fulfill the prompt of hall because there is a building on the cover. Roll number 2 out of 5. A contemporary. We got a 1, so we don't want to move that guy. So let's go ahead and move this one instead. Pick you up. All right, so I did put some of the more diverse prompts back in. So I've already had this one. In fact, I might have had it last month. But of course, I want to go ahead and cycle those through as much as possible. So this contemporary needs to have LGBTQ representation. All right, and for prompt number 2, we landed on contemporary with the prompt of LGBTQ plus rep. For this, I am selecting Nick and Charlie by Alice Oseman. This is just a short story that I think builds on top of the graphic novels. I don't know if it takes place after them, during, no idea what's happening in this, but it's very short. So very excited about that. I have read all of the graphic novels and really enjoy these 2 characters. So I'm excited to get to spend some more time with them. This book does also fulfill 2 prompts for the Whodonnit. We have Colonel Mustard, which is just because this book is mustard yellow. And then we also have the billiard room, which is a room that requires games or sports. And Nick and Charlie are on the rugby team. Roll number 3 out of 5. A romance. Number 3, and I gotta take one out because I still have them. So 1, 2, 3. So I end up needing to take a punishment prompt anyway. So this romance, oh look, there's one of my repeats again, needs to have mental health representation. All right, so the next prompt we got is a romance with mental, which way? Yep, now it's right. Mental health rep. And the book I have selected is The Witch King by H.E. Edgman. I'm super excited to finally be getting to this book. This is the last book on my 5-star prediction list. And I've just been putting it off for so long, or not putting it off, but rather not being able to put it on my TBR. Now, this book doesn't like explicitly say that it has mental health rep, but we do have a character who I believe is a witch, obviously because it says Witch King, and he loses control of his magic one devastating night and he flees to the human world. So I'm assuming that he's dealing with the repercussions of possibly, I don't know, maybe hurting someone or making things difficult for people that he cares about, and maybe not, you know, fully knowing who he is anymore or what his purpose is, things like that. So just based off the synopsis, I'm assuming that our character is going through some sort of crisis, some sort of mental health crisis of sorts. So Hopefully that's at least semi-correct. We are following our witch here, who I believe is a trans character. And he was to marry the fairy king, who is his best friend. And when he flees because of this devastating event, his friend comes after him to kind of drag him back. His friend doesn't really seem to be the person that he used to be, and they've kind of become almost like enemies. So this seems to be kind of like a friends to enemies to lovers situation. And I believe the author is Indigenous. Yep, they aim to center the voices of Indigenous people, trans people, and survivors of trauma. So yeah, that makes me think that this probably has mental health rep, trans rep, Indigenous rep. So very excited to read this. This book does also fulfill some prompts for the Whodonnit readathon. The first one is Professor Plum, obviously, because there is purple on the cover. And the other one is The Weapon Knife, and that includes betrayal. I'm assuming that because he runs away from his betrothed, that his friend, his fiance, is feeling a bit betrayed by that. And we only have 2 punishment prompts left, so we'll see which of the 2 I get. I don't even remember which ones are left. So let's go ahead and do this one. So this is a second chance author. So this means I read a book from an author and decided that maybe I don't want to try their stuff anymore, but now I'm going to go ahead and give them a second chance to redeem themselves. And we got ourselves a punishment prompt, and this one was to read a second chance author. I had a couple in mind, but my library only had one of the books, and I wasn't about to go buy a book from an author that I didn't dig the first time around. But I am going to be reading The Beautiful by readathon. Now, this is an author that I enjoyed many years ago when I read The Flame and the Mist duology, but when I tried to read her The Wrath and the Dawn, I believe is what it was called, I DNF'd it because it was not good. It was no. But because I enjoyed one of her books, I still am holding out a bit of hope that maybe she can win me over again. So I'm gonna go ahead and listen to the audiobook of The Beautiful, which seems to be kind of vampire based, set in New Orleans. I think it's historical, and we are following a character who seems to be possibly on the run from something. So it seems like an intriguing concept. I haven't heard the greatest things about this because I feel like a lot of people say it's kind of advertised as a vampire book, but the vampires aren't very present. So at least I know that, and I'm not expecting too many vampire scenes or anything like that. So maybe I will be left less disappointed than some people in the past. This book also fulfills 3 prompts for whodunit. For the character, it will be Mr. Green. Now, for Mr. Green, it says that if it has any sort of religion associated with it. Now, our character seems to be staying at a convent, according to the synopsis, which seems to be where monks, nuns, and stuff seem to live. I don't know if she's just there to hide, but at least it seems like it'll be a semi-religious setting for at least where she's living. He also seems to be a mobster, Mr. Green, and we are dealing with vampires who I'm assuming are kind of a group of people that are in power but are also causing harm, which is kind of what mobs do. So that's why I did Mr. Green. For the weapon, I selected lead pipe. This says includes a toxic topic. We do have a relationship in here, which to some people may be considered kind of toxic since she's considering the fact that he may be a murderer. So, you know, not the healthiest thing to think about your partner, and, you know, definitely shouldn't stay with someone you think is a killer. And then for the room, I am doing the dining room, which might be a little bit of a stretch. It says food-based, and since we are dealing with vampires and murder, I'm assuming that we're going to be dealing a little bit with some blood sucking, which is technically a vampire's source of food. So that's why I'm using it for the dining hall. All right, on to roll a number 4 out of 5. Another contemporary. I've said it once, I'll say it again. I'm pretty sure this dice is weighted towards contemporary. And another one. And in this case, I do need to go out because I have one in here. And that does unfortunately kick one of my sci-fi dudes home. So I'm going to have to take another punishment. And this is a contemporary graphic novel. So that works out pretty well for me. And then we just have one punishment prompt left, so we'll go ahead and see what that is. And that is to read one of my least read genres. So this would probably be along the lines of maybe horror, historical. I may even do like a nonfiction. So that is what I'll do for this punishment. So for roll number 4, we got contemporary, and it needs to be a graphic novel. That's upside down. I can't see very well in my camera here. Graphic novel. And that worked out really well because I can go ahead and do one of my first rereads of the year. One of the easiest as well, which is Fence Volume 1. This is by C.S. Pacat, Jonathan the Mad, and Joanna Lafuente. And this is just a short comic that follows a young boy who has been given a scholarship to a prestigious high school. I'm assuming it's a high school, on a fencing scholarship specifically, and he joins this team. It seems that his father was a very famous fencer, but is not in his life anymore. I can't remember if he just abandoned his son or if he died. It's been a couple years since I read this first volume, but it is a very queer story and a very, very slow burn romance. So in this first one, there isn't really even any romance. So probably have to wait a few volumes before you get maybe even some hand touching, maybe a kiss. Now, this book is only fulfilling one prompt for the Whodonnit readathon, and that is lounge, just because it's kind of a relaxing read. One, it's very short, primarily pictures, and also it's a reread, so there shouldn't be anything too shocking for me, and I'll probably read it within like 15 minutes or so. All right, and then we got another punishment prompt, and that one was to read a least read genre. So I don't know if you would consider this a tiny bit of cheating, but I am putting on a book that I have already started. I'm less than 50% through it though, and that is a nonfiction, which is one of my least read genres, and specifically Know My Name by Chanel Miller is the one I'm putting on. As you can see, I'm about this far through. Didn't make much progress. I started this in November and was hoping to finish it by the end of the year, and that did not happen. I'm pretty sure this month I read one chapter out of this entire book. So I definitely need to finish it for the prompts for the Whodonnit readathon. So this is finally going to give me that push to prioritize this read. In this book, we are following Chanel Miller as she goes through the trial, the Stanford rape trial, I should say. And it's very difficult for me to read this story, which is why I was going through it so slowly. But I think since some of the stress of the holidays is going away, hopefully I can just take a deep breath and just work my way through this story. It is fulfilling 3 prompts for the readathon. First is Miss White, who is a working class woman. Chanel is a working class woman who is going up against a system that is prioritizing rich white boys. We also have The Wrench, because it kind of twists your feelings. This book will give you a lot of unpleasant emotions. You're going to be very angry. You're going to be very sad. You're going to be disgusted, frustrated, all those things things. And third, we have the study, because you learn something from this book because it's a nonfiction story. All right, roll number 5. Hopefully no punishments for this guy. And we have a horror thriller mystery. And we got a 3 for that. And we got to move a guy out. Not taking anyone out though, so that's good news. And this horror thriller mystery needs to have an ugly cover. I feel like with this genre that shouldn't be too hard because they're usually not the prettiest covers. And for our final roll, we got a horror thriller and mystery, or mystery I should say, and it was to get a ugly, or to have an ugly cover. And for this I have chosen The House Across the Lake, or is it Across a Lake? Whatever. The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. I have read this author and enjoyed them in the past. This is a book for my 12 books from the Vlog Squad challenge. Nick and Charlie, which is also on this TBR, is actually on that as well. So it's nice that I'm getting through 2 of those this month. I don't know too much about this book. We seem to be following a woman who is recently widowed and is hanging out at her family's cabin at the lake and is kind of spying on this couple until something weird happens, and she starts to maybe investigate what happened, or just kind of keep an eye on the investigation, things like that. So I'm excited to read another audiobook by Riley Sager, and hopefully I enjoyed it as much as the other 2. This book also fulfills 3 prompts for the readathon. The first is Miss Peacock, who is apparently an older woman. I'm assuming that our character is somewhat older since she is widowed, so she's been married, unless she got married really young. I don't know how old the character is, but just based off that widowed status, I'm putting older woman. Next, we have the candlestick, because there is a light on the cover, which is the windows of the house, which, by the way, I didn't really mention why I thought this was an ugly cover. I don't think it's like super ugly, but I'm not a big fan of the writing, and especially how the word Riley, or the name Riley, kind of is yellow and is written over the yellow light of the reflection in the lake. I don't think that looks very good, so that's why I chose that book, because that one little spot annoyed me, but it was enough. And then for the room, we went ahead and went with conservatory, which should have glass on the cover, and once again we have those windows which are made of glass. All right, guys, so here are the 5 physical books that I'll be reading this month, as well as The Beautiful by Renee Attier and The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. So I would say this TBR is a relatively easy-ish. It doesn't seem too hardcore, especially these 2 books here will probably be finished easy peasy. Now, I do still have Kindle Unlimited until the 7th, so I may read a couple books off of there before I start on these books, just to take advantage of it. So it is a little bit convenient that this series is a little shorter. I am also working on 2 audiobooks. I'm reading Little Thieves right now, which is also a part of the Vlog Squad 12 books challenge. I've only gotten through about an hour of that right now. And then the Psalm of the Wild Bill by Becky Chambers just came in today. That's only about 4 hours, but I do want to go ahead and read that before I read anything else. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about starting my year out with these books. Let me know down below what books you're hoping to start the year out with. And as always, thank you so much for supporting my channel, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!